All right. I think I'm going here. Let me see. Yeah, looks like it is. Okay. Sorry, folks. Short notice on this one. Got to do a couple of things here. So I'll give people a little bit of time to join. And I'll do a little bit more whiteboarding tonight. And I'm not sure how deep I'm going to get into the topic of the film Swimming with Sharks, but yeah, I should touch on it. Hang on here. All right, live now. Let's see here. So I got to get this thing on Twitter real fast. So I'll just give folks a little bit of time to join anyways. Sorry about my lack of organization here tonight. All right. So it's on Twitter. All right, I'm live streaming. It's on Twitter now. So. All right. Got to make sure I do my full metal disclosure methods of verification. Because I never know when I'm being, when I'm having my signal jammed, as it were. Or my reality jammed. I've learned that oftentimes the same organizations and companies that like to rig signals are also filled with crisis actors that like to rig reality. It's all the same economy, and that's what I'm going to be talking about, is how it's almost impossible to separate the Department of Energy from everything that I've discussed leading up until now. So what would be, well, let's get some history for those who are unaware of what I talked about yesterday. I did a live stream yesterday. I think it was yesterday. Yeah, pretty sure. For about an hour and a half, where I got a little bit deeper into the connection with my relatives with the Department of Justice, Washington politics, my Aunt Catherine Warma's connection to Seattle Mayor Jenny Durkin, who has been kind of driving Seattle into the ground with bad policies and just really, you know, how do I say it, guys? I mean, the way these people go about being, quote, liberal or progressive even makes most people that are pretty rigidly liberal and progressive go, seriously? But the problem I think that we have with these policies is that people that I've just found historically, and I would say myself included, when I tended to lean Democrat or I tended to lean more left, there's a lot more. You know what's weird is that we always thought this about people that were conservative, like there was more group think amongst them, like there wasn't enough individuality. I don't really think that that's true anymore, especially the deeper I've gotten into conservative circles relative to like having conversations with people over there. I would say that there's a lot more diversity in opinion um, within those groups of people who lean in that direction. And I would say that it's a little bit more myopic and rigid. The belief system that's allegedly about being open and diverse has a tendency to be quite close-minded and guilty of all the sins that it alleges to be protecting people from. Classic modern liberalism, as I've learned it, it has its roots truly in, honestly, people don't like me to say this as frequently as I do, I guess, but I'm going to say it again. Liberalism in America actually has its roots in Nazism, okay? In deception, into rigging your perceptions, into making you believe that the people that are socially conscious, The ones that are out in the open going like, I care so much for these people, are really the ones that care. I'm being straight up with you guys. Like those charitable organizations, I was really trying to find somebody I could work with or partner with in a way that was earnest. I kept trying and trying and trying. And over again, I would bump into this system of fakery that I find in major corporations. I would find it in nonprofits that were handling very serious things like human trafficking, including Polaris, the human trafficking hotline. And it increasingly was, I guess you could say, it was crushing my spirit to learn over and over again that so many people had such a laissez-faire attitude about faking things with these organizations. Almost like they're like, hey man, it's just a way to make money. It's a nonprofit. Who cares who's getting hurt? Well, a lot of people are getting hurt and not enough people are getting helped. The system that we have now, right now, is actually just letting it all happen, pretending that they're doing something. They're not doing anything but, excuse excuse me, running protection, running defense against people learning the truth about how the cartels and the gangs in America actually operate. They have heavy support within the infrastructure. They are part of the infrastructure. They have effectively, especially over the last several years, become heavily embedded within the infrastructure. There's been a lot of people that have some pretty disturbing histories that needed to find a way to expunge their former records and integrate themselves back into a regular economy, especially people that are guilty of things that are pretty heinous like sex crimes. And the people that are guilty of things like sex crimes are increasingly finding that they have more and more protection in modern society within that media that's very powerful at rigging the perceptions of everybody. If the cases that have come up recently have not convinced you that that's the reality, then you are still too stupid to save, perhaps. I don't know what to tell you. If the John Griffin story hasn't convinced you that the mainstream media does, in fact, bury, conceal cases that involve human trafficking and child abuse of a very horrific nature, you're not paying attention. These people are the protection racket. They're every bit as much a part of the crime as the people actually performing the crimes themselves, because really what the mainstream media is, many of these people that allege or pretend to be doing opinion news or reporting the news on CNN or MSNBC are really what I like to call shot callers. Okay. They call the shots. They're the people that are pretending to read the news, but are really doing coded, encrypted reporting of the dark economies, the underground economies, the sales of people, the sales of drugs and guns and everything else like that. Giving updates on routes of transportation for all of these things. I mean, it's being done within the news stories right in front of you, and they get everybody to talk about it. So that way, they themselves, as a large group who are a part of these things, can also talk about the news story, but they'll do it in a way where they're just like, again, say like with Gabby Petito, say that Brian Landry's, say that we discover this was all a big fiction. Then you would have to ask yourself, why were the characters named what they are? Well, maybe Brian Landry was Barry and Laundry, BlackBerry server, and launder their money. Bury the person, get rid of them, effectively erase them, have a crisis actor fill in for them, and launder their money. I think that there's people that would like to get away with doing that to a number of people, including myself. Spin me and my narrative that is true and attach me to as many fake companies and fake characters as they can, to where people on the outside are going, what are you really doing, Gabe? Well, guys, sometimes to learn the truth, you have to get close to the deception. And that's happened to me a number of times. Once I've arrived and I've learned the truth about certain things, what I do after that, I don't always have an immediate answer for. What I hope is that in any given situation, that people will see me truly as a person that's trying to ease things away from the war environment, I guess, behind all of these things. With the understanding, guys, that we're dealing with people that are gangs and cartels, and they have interests of their own. They have areas that they're trying to defend that belong to them, or they feel ownership of, or they have control over. And the economies that are at the street level within them. That would include, gun running, drug running, prostitution, things of that nature. Increasingly, people don't always use cash for these things. They want to have ways to do these things electronically. And so there's people that have developed using the infrastructure a bank that is effectively a second bank that is a mirror of the actual banking system. It's a mirror. It's like a second internet. They've created, if you ask me, this all would pretty much have to lead back to Leidos and SCIC. I don't know who else could have engineered it or who would have the power and access to. But it's like they've created this secondary internet, and you can't really say this is like some individual, like, group or gang or cartel that's doing this. It is so vast and broad. It's just become to where gangs and cartels can effectively become branches in a mobile banking, money laundering method, where the banks are not stationary. They're not in brick and mortar buildings. They're on smartphones. They are virtual banks. It is a virtual banking system, and the people that are using it are buying drugs, guns, dark material from the dark web of whatever, assassinations. They're buying all types of things of this nature, and they would not like to see that economy go away. They don't want to see their ability to buy and sell things undetectably and anonymously go away. The way it's set up right now is nearly anybody can transfer things involving US dollar into a cryptocurrency, and it kind of washes amongst the whole groups of them like really, really fast, is the way that I understand it, and then spits it out into something where the person can kind of, I guess you could say, it operates like it's loaning people money that's in a temporary state of being moved from one place to the next. So I would argue that this quote second bank, or the secondary banking or whatever, consists almost entirely of money that is being held, frozen, stalled, lagged, or kept in trusts, or kept in, funds or whatever. Anything they can convince people to freeze and park through fear or control of markets or whatever else. Um, and then that's the slush fund. And anytime they run out of that money, the only way to create more is to force more transactions into the environment to get more people to do more things that they can create more mirrors of and add a zero to. So that, when you make a $5 transaction, they can turn that into a $50 one. A $50 transaction of yours can turn into a 500, 5,000, 50,000, etc. They usually don't go that far with it. They try to keep it, I guess, within a zero. But um, and the people that are doing this can effectively make a company that masquerades and actually will perform certain duties. I'm not going to talk about any of the ones that I've discovered lately. I also want people to know that just because I've learned something doesn't mean I blame anyone within any immediate environment of mine. Absolutely not. It's not where I'm going with anything that I'm discussing right now, just to make that very clear. But I've discovered many shenanigans. I've discovered the signs of crisis actors. I've discovered the signs of intercepts. I've discovered the signs of people that can operate as teams of construction workers, landscapers, etc., performing those types of functions under cover companies, but have a secondary function of dark occulted economies. The one that I feel like I've discovered, I don't even want to talk about. It just makes me too freaking sad, and it's too dark. I don't even want to go there. I just want it to be understood that when I dug deeper into this company and I learned that they did way more than the construction function that they alleged to, I had to raise an eyebrow. And I just want it to be said that now that I've done that research, that's a situation that I trust about as far as I can throw, because it is a code, it is a cipher. I looked up their business records. I looked up how they got a nearly $400,000 COVID loan about 1 week prior to my having interaction with them. And there's only 20 some employees there, and they got like 400 and some, I mean, $400,000, that basically splits out to like 70 some thousand dollars per employee that they, I guess, doled out for COVID relief. Wow. It's a lot of money. Maybe there's some hidden costs to payroll that I'm just not seeing. No pun intended there. Um, but when I started to understand more intrinsically what they were doing with some of the fake names behind their management, put it this way, pretty awful things. As I'm pissed off right now, so I'm trying to like just get through this the right way that I can. So I told you yesterday about how my Aunt Catherine was at the Department of Justice. A lot of times I look up cases that are connected to her and I kind of go, is that how it really happened? Because that really looks more like a movie script to me. Hope friends of mine don't mind me saying this, but I've had people tell me in confidence that they knew people that would have, you know, uh, like there seemed to be a, I guess you could say, a known consulting agreement between the FBI and many Hollywood studios, where quite a few people that work at the agency take quote consulting gigs to advise Hollywood on how to make, I guess you could say, like maybe an episode of some storyline like more realistic and make it look more like the real FBI. I don't know how that all works. I'm assuming that that's what that was amounting to, but when you think about how that relationship exists and that really these things were all kind of coming into an inception and modernized at the same time, broadcast media, film, and television, there is effectively this marriage between uranium interests. Uranium is effectively Department of Energy, folks. I mean, really, like these are two things that are completely inseparable because everything to do with uranium has to be managed by the Department of Energy. They always, between them and the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, they really have a lock on this. And so when I was reviewing things relative to the Hanford Nuclear Reservation, especially the Environmental Protection Agency, this is where this whole story came to a screeching halt right in front of my door. And like the Foo Fighters song, that's when I was experiencing my own private "There Goes My Hero." You know the song? That's how I felt. It was like I was sensing like something was seriously wrong, and I was finding these records where I was kind of going, it's like, guys, if you found a whole bunch of records associated, and again, sometimes they create red herrings to throw people off. That's one of the reasons why I did not want to make an immediate assumption about what it meant. But somebody really close to me seemed close to these records. And it seemed like the code names that were used on them that I could go, that's not a real person. That's just seems like it's this person that I know, because that would be what their name translates to from Spanish to English, or that's what their name would mean if they took it and created this or did this language corruption thing, right? It was always something where I could go like, no, it's come on, man, that's you. That's one of your puppets. That's one of your buffers. Over and over again, it kept happening. I'll explain to you why it's concerning to me on the whiteboard here in a second, too. Yeah. Guys, I don't, people sometimes have to fake things for good reasons. Sometimes people have to play characters just to protect themselves and their families. But the thing I've always asked is like to like absolutely try to limit that type of environment with me always, because I don't function well once I've discovered that something's just bogus. I kind of go like, no, no, you're not going to keep telling me that that's real. That is fake. And see, once you pull the thread on that sweater, it just keeps unraveling, like like the Weezer song. You see, once I found this fake thread in this sweater, it just keeps unraveling and I can't get it to sew itself back in place. It destroys the entire sweater. This one false narrative going unexplained, me knowing this is a fake company connected to something close to this all thing. And that one of the people, I'm just going to throw this out as a hint. Literally, when I met one of these people, they actually stacked 3 boxes of something that's something else that said intercept on it and just kept on using a whole bunch of puns that they would kind of snicker to themselves and laugh about. Now I know what they actually mean. And just making sure folks know. That doesn't mean you should draw negative associations immediately to everybody connected to that situation. And I personally, for one, I try to offer as many bridges away from negative associations as I can, provided that people are willing to cross them, want to cross them, and are willing to do the the honest work to get there. I say that because I had to give up a lot of things in my own situation to gain the confidence of certain people that I do know actually provide a good amount of assistance from the sidelines, which is never to um, diminish the help that I get straightforward from people in everyday life, who I do love and appreciate. But I can't allow something that I know is that fictional and false to be attributed to me in any way, especially if it's going to lead to something as negative of an event or a false flag or a live action role play as I think that it's designed to do. And I don't think that that COVID payment was a real COVID payment as much as it was a buyout for a series of crisis actors to create a false flag. It was the budget for the narrative. So I've learned once again. Now, how I provide bridges for people to get away from crisis actors, I don't really know because I still haven't figured that out. But I know there's people that have been immersed in those communities that want out, that would love to get away from some of those things if they had a place to go. And what they find is that the negative associations to those groups that fictionalize things are so strong. It's like, I don't know if you ever seen the movie like Train Spotting. It's great. I haven't watched it in years, but I need to. But it's a basically like this guy. He's like a heroin addict that quits and decides to clean up his whole life and everything like that and get away from all of his negative friends. And no matter what he does, they always seem to find him, and they're trying to drag him back into the culture. And I would say the cults of fakery and the things that are like the Love Family cult and the people that are involved with live action role plays, they really do exist, folks. You need to understand this. It's like they see their daily life as much as scripted as the film roles and the television shows that they're in that you don't know that they're in. You understand how this works? They're actors and actresses that use avatar technology to make films using a face different than the one they have in daily life. Simultaneously, they oftentimes will pretend to be 100% fake people with entirely fake histories that they make look very, very realistic to the persons of interest that they're selling this narrative to. Sometimes I've found myself in the past in situations where another person that I ran into was equally surrounded by said effery, and I could tell that the people that were engineering the things around them were really trying to draw negative associations to that individual so that I wouldn't trust them. So let me make it very clear. When I run into these types of situations, I don't immediately go into blaming mode. I find the specific data associations that are concerning to me that lead back to the organizations. And then whatever data sets fall apart after that are entirely on the individuals involved to explain. But it doesn't mean that I go into like, yeah, you're this. No, I don't do that. I don't feel that way either. I'm still trying to understand what the latest round of my discovery of crisis actors really means. Who I believe to be crisis actors that are also engaged in a legitimate business. But I just want it to be known because there was a recent event that I mentioned briefly last night, where like I was trying to pay for gas, and it's happened twice now at 7-Elevens where I've observed there being hacking activity, and there being people that seem to be close to one of these private military corporations that are pulling up by the pump simultaneously and creating a mirror of my data. And then they're just making it to where I can't process the transaction. This all started the other day when a young lady approached, our look, we were at the 7-Eleven, okay? And the way this lady went about doing it, I told you guys last night how it went down a little bit, but like she was kind of holding her phone up to us, and like I could tell she was trying to get close to us. And it was like when I see that and it's done in such an obvious way, and I can tell that there's like some incentive for the person to get my image inside the camera, I know that there's another ecosystem that they're getting paid to do this, and that part of that getting the image is the evidence that they were at the location, they got an image of my face, and they pulled off the deed that they were assigned to do, which was just simply to be a proximity hacker. A proximity hacker is a person that basically just has to get close enough to push a signal via radio frequency airwave, near field communication, or something that's kind of close to the type of signal that the Qi wireless energy system does through the backplane of the phone. There's ways that all those types of systems can get hacked to just send information into your phone. It's just, it's virtual pickpocketing involving data and passing of your information, doping of information on your IP route that they don't want tracked to them. And since what I think this latest discovery of crisis actors involves is basically a fake company that fronts as construction, but actually does intercepts, jams, bars, hint, just putting that out there just as like a one over the bow to say, like, I'm not the enemy, but stop it already. See, what I represent is a bridge. I really do. And I've got nothing but love. I have nothing but love. Truly. I don't mean I'm not speaking code, guys. I'm saying I completely understand how hard it is to get away from this shit. So as long as I know people are trying in earnest to do the same thing, I don't draw negative associations. Okay? And I know there's got to be people that can see that they're wrong, or something that was behind something was wrong, or doing was wrong. Sorry, I don't want to stay excessively on the topic though, but I'm saying this because I keep trying to either get some degree of oversight on everything I'm talking about here, or if our justice process in America refuses to work appropriately, figure out what the steps that I have to go through beyond that to get the right attention of the right people in the right place to make justice happen. What does that even amount to? Honestly, if all it amounts to in my case is just simply that the people that are behind it just simply admit that they did it and get the fuck out of my life and get away, that's enough for me. Just to be clear, Yeah, I want compensation and things like that for things that happen, sure. But for the most part, I'm just looking for all the people that have been historically connected to the effery just to leave me alone and just to let me live a pure life where I can start a family, and just be, live a nice. Really, look, guys, nobody can ever have a perfect experience, I guess, but I want it free of this overt hacking of my environment that's just allowed to happen out in the open. Continuing trying to rig perceptions surrounding, me and whatever else is going on in a way that's hugely ineffective, but because no one's doing anything about it on any level. You see, guys, like it's like what they try to make it look like I am doesn't work because the FBI wouldn't give a shit anyways. Yet it works because it'll keep a certain group of people from like being near me because they'll use these crisis actors to be close to me, to where it creates the illusion that I'm somehow okay with the crisis acting, okay with the false narratives, or would be a person that is a part of facilitating intercepts or stingrays or cobham intercepts. The people that are doing this had the audacity just to poke me in the fucking face and say, "Yeah, dude, I'm doing it. What are you going to do about it?" That's kind of what it is. And let's not call it anything else. Am I going to let it upset me? Am I going to get all enraged about it? No. Ain't giving you that. I'm done being pissed off. Now it's about just making sure that those who are aware and in the know understand that I'm not engaged in that particular fakery. I'm not a part of it. And what I would like to do is just provide a pathway out of that fakery for anybody who would like to get out of it. Because to me, I would much rather see more people just on that path in general because the whole system is effed. And I don't think there's really anybody that you can really, honestly, with the choices people have had, I'm not sure that I'm really even that angry at people for choosing the wrong path in many cases. Honestly, I don't have this sense of like, I'm coming after this and that. And it's like, I'm just like looking at situations going like, what the hell would I do if I was placed in all those different scenarios? Who could I go to? Who could I partner with? Or who could I rely upon as a group to protect or defend me if I found myself at odds with another group or something else like that? I can see how somebody would do that. Yeah. I can see how they would pretend that fakery doesn't exist when they know it does. I can see how they would just look the other way and go, I don't know what that is. I don't see that. But the time is now to stop doing that for anybody who is. And that's the best way I can phrase it. Because it doesn't help them, it doesn't help me. And it won't help the people that I know can help all of us get out of this. Because what really needs to happen is more people simultaneously just need to show integrity and a willingness to take a chance on a situation that for themselves may be a little bit risky, um, but will ultimately pay off. That is to say that I had to walk away from a lot of things that I could rely upon, people that I had fragmented relationships with, but tried to keep them intact for a while in a way that perhaps was disingenuous because I just never wanted to be in a situation where, if I needed help, I couldn't get it. I guess, and I guess that lacks integrity to a degree. And maybe I just didn't see that entirely how others would look at that and kind of go like, well, you see how that doesn't really jive well with a bunch of people that are testing you a little bit to find out what your integrity levels are. So for me, it wasn't so much that it wasn't trying to maintain it for that reason, although I didn't try to go completely nuclear on those relationships, especially with people in my family for a lot of those reasons. I mean, because also I like to try to keep whatever other relationships intact that I can and not make things uncomfortable for those people. But let me tell you something, man. With this Department of Energy crap and the crisis actor companies and all the things that I'm discovering here, how else do I say it, guy? Those who know, like a lot of people know timeline technology exists, but the Hollywood projects also are heavily involved with this type of timeline release of information. And if you weren't convinced already that there was something that was connected to me relative to a lot of these scripts, Swimming with Sharks should also convince you. I haven't been watching a lot of movies. I've been trying to do more like work shifts and things like that lately, and doing less of this type of research, if it's possible. So, most of it's done kind of late, at night, after work and things like that, where I don't have as high of an attention level as I normally do. But I've been still kind of catching things like in the film Swimming with Sharks. Those unfamiliar, it's a movie that stars Kevin Spacey and Frank Wally. It was done pretty early in Kevin Spacey's career. I would say as an independent film, it really helped define him as like one of the more, like ones to watch kind of actors. Like after that, people were kind of like, "Whoa, this guy is pretty intense." And he plays like this evil Hollywood producer that I guess is based on Joel Silver. I heard somebody else say he was based on Scott Rudin, but I don't know. I mean, maybe I don't know how those things correlate, um, but basically, he's just this horrible Hollywood producer that like throws things at his assistants, and Frank Wall is the assistant that gets hired to be, his guy. And well, his name is Guy in the movie. So Frank Wally's character is Guy, and then the producer's name is Buddy, G and B, Gabe. I thought that was kind of interesting, but that's not why, guys. I mean, it's not stupid things like that. That's one sign, sure, but that in and of itself isn't a big deal. This is where it got kind of interesting, and this is maybe where I should like put up my camera here really fast and do this, but hang on here. All right. I'm going to show this to you guys really quick because, again, I hope it doesn't seem like I'm bouncing around excessively here or whatever. It's not, I'm not trying to be confusing with this. It's simply to kind of show you that there is an ecosystem of crisis actors. There's a connection to the Department of Energy. I'm probably going on. I've been going on for 30 some minutes now. Okay. So it's probably been a little bit too much of that. Sorry about that, folks. I really should kind of stick to the material. Some of the events lately have just done. I'm still just processing them emotionally, I guess, is all. Um, so yesterday I did the whole thing on, Catherine Warma, Ricardo Cruz, my aunt and uncle, their connection to Washington politics via former Washington Governor Gary Locke, how he had the whole thing going to Seattle's, Governor Gary Locke appointed my uncle Ricardo to Seattle school districts. And then my aunt Catherine, she was at the Department of Justice, and she basically worked with now Mayor Jenny Durkin. Okay. And it's interesting to me because this is the same Aunt Catherine that I saw Facebook, posted profiles of her and Kim Warma, who owns ProAct, Crisis Assaulter Actor training program. They're all wearing the pink hats in Washington, D.C. and marching in Washington, D.C. So when I see a former Department of Justice cybercrime attorney side by side with a relative that owns a group of a group that trains crisis actors that fictionalize events for training scenarios. And I know sometimes that they are part of fake protests. These types of crisis actors are used for these types of fake protests when they're doing like those types of training events. You see, it gives the people that run these companies with this group of actors the cover to run the LARPs. Gives them cover to run LARPs of a more personal nature that trick people in more sophisticated ways. That's why I'm making sure that you understand. I am aware that crisis actors have once again found a way to permeate my environment and do things hyper realistically to create narratives that they'll try to get me to believe, but I'm just letting you know I do not believe them. That doesn't mean, though, that I think that everybody connected to it or involved or immersed in it is bad or guilty of something or even aware. But to protect myself, I have to make it known. I am aware there's one of these groups of crisis actors that seem to be involved with intercepts and jamming of signals. And because they seem to be intent on trying to degrade and humiliate me constantly, this is just a little shot over the bow to let them know you're not getting under my skin. You're not really pissing me off the way that you're trying to. It won't work, and you will be revealed in ways that I don't think you're going to enjoy. Because, yes, the FBI does not care. But there are a lot of people out there who do care. And I got news for you. We will find a way to expose all of you in a way that's very public. So, those of you who would like to continue running deception, who would like to continue running false flags, LARPs, especially anywhere within feet of me, just be forewarned. Nobody believes that I'm a part of it. Nobody believes that I am a crisis actor. I will continue to reiterate, I do not work with crisis actor companies. I do not participate in any crisis actor events, and I don't want to be associated with them at all. I am aware that the same mafia trains people under those programs, then gives them front companies that almost always have something in their bullshit coded names that say what they really do, like jamming bars and rigging signals with intercepts. But hey, man, Brooklyn, right? Brooklyn, Brooklyn. I ain't upset, but you're warned. Stay the fuck away. You're dealing with a person like I don't think you really get what you're dealing with. And when you start getting close to my personal space and the personal space of people that I care about, you're treading in some seriously dangerous territory. Now, it's not about what I'll do. It's about the consequences of what you're doing, trying to make me look dirty, and what it really reveals about you because you have to get close to me to do it. Rope-a-doping. I bob and weave, motherfucker. You've been rope-a-doped. You're jamming, barring, and rigging of signals. You're intercept. You don't see nothing. You don't hear nothing. You don't speak nothing. Stay the fuck away. And if you're under the illusion that you own somebody, you don't. That's just in case that's something that's happening. People are free, they're born free, and they'll always be free, no matter what some people try to convince them of, no matter what voodoo people try to work on each other's minds to convince them otherwise. We're all born free. So don't ever convince yourself you're anything but that. Shot over the bow because I'm not tolerating people faking shit around me. And I'm not letting people intercept my signals without being revealed. And the cornerstone thing, I'm not going to even get into. But y'all been warned. I know. I know. And I wasn't down with that, if anybody on the outside thinks that I was. And when the reality of what happened sank in, it the way it affected my brain damn near I felt like I was going to die at that moment. I'm not gonna lie to you. I've just learned to get over the shock of certain things very, very fast. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to get around in the world because I have to process that many things that are that shocking that frequently. So don't act like I don't care, ever. All right. So to get deeper into the Department of Energy thing, how do people If my Aunt Catherine's at the Department of Justice, cybercrime cases seem to be kind of fictionalized, swapped with real narratives. Real cybercrime cases swapped with fictional narratives that are damn near like movies that are put out with public releases from the DOJ and everything. Would it not help to be in the DOJ and to have a sister or sister in law, perhaps, connected to a crisis actor company? And then if the whole family's been secretly involved in Hollywood for decades, creating scripts to get that you can feed directly into the media cycle is about the easiest thing in the world to accomplish when you have global media in a handful of networks that once they say it, everybody else has to say it. Once MSNBC and Fox and CNN and ABC and CBS and NBC all agree that it's a thing, now all the alt media people have to say, I guess it's real. But it's not. It just isn't most of the time. Nor are the realities that I have had placed in front of me very frequently. It doesn't mean the love I feel for individuals isn't real. That's always real for me. When I feel things for people, it's absolutely real. I feel things like you wouldn't believe. I feel a lot. But I can disassociate that from other effery that's going on all around all of us. And I would never want the effery surrounded by me to be associated with me. And I sure as shit wouldn't want it associated with anybody that I cared about, that I would know or hope would want to get away from that just as much. But what they do is that a lot like the movie Train Spotting, you keep trying to go and go and go and run in the entire opposite direction, and they always find a way to catch up and find you and surround you with their love. They're your friends, they're your buddies, and they'll try to get close to you very, very frequently. No, guys, I'm not, please, I don't want any of my friends or whatever to get paranoid. Nobody close to me to feel like I'm talking about them. I'm telling you about the sheer number of times this has actually happened to me, where I discovered that, oh man, how did I not see it? How did I not see that? That was such an obvious deception. But I had to do it, I guess, right? I had to go and find out. And when I kept finding records at the Department of Energy that I could tell kind of led to a similar kind of fakery relative to Environmental Protection Agency clearances for like toxic waste fund projects, I'm kind of going, all right. So I kind of know the word play, the way that language is corrupted, the way that words are corrupted, to spin one narrative or create a mirror of a narrative and to make it to where people don't understand what the truth is. And I could see them using this method in a very sophisticated way, and the origins of it kept going back to Science Applications International Corporation and Leidos. Again, remember, guys, this is the company whose CEO is Nazi King. Literally, they have a company that's run by a woman named Nazi King, Nazzi, Nazi with two Z's, Keene, Nazi King. Really, you guys. I mean, once you understand that the way that they make that fiction operate, once you dig into how that became a hyper realistic fiction that you're forced to accept as reality, you'll solve this whole puzzle. Solve the CEO of SAIC and a few others. My guess is you're going to learn the whole ecosystem of how they're faking all of it. But I'm sure that the only reason why they're that overt about it is because they know that if you pull the thread on their sweater, it's going to unravel a much bigger one connected to a lot more other things. Maybe this is like a useful narrative. that it's the thread to the sweater. Again, to my friend's credit, maybe that's why, you were telling me that one time that this is Chinatown, because it is a little bit what I've learned about some of this information is that when you start to tug on the thread of some of this information, the whole damn sweater comes unraveled, and that makes everybody feel cold. They all get the chills suddenly because they're just like, "What happened to my sweater?" Everybody simultaneously is like going, "Hey man, you can't pull that thread. We're using that sweater too." See, the good guys are using it. There's people that are just faking things in a way that's not darkly criminal, that it isn't hurt anybody. Maybe it's just a person that's just like trying to like reduce their tax burden, or they're just doing some clever creative shifting of numbers or whatever else like that to rig things. I don't know, guys. I don't really care. I'm not a person that's like really like going like, "Hey, you should pay this and that." No, I don't, it's not like that. I'm saying that I think the level of rigging at this point within the infrastructure is so severe that you have to get deep, deep, deep into this issue to even solve it. And who's going to be the investigative agency if the FBI just kind of goes, "We don't see how that's even possible." Really, you guys? All right. This isn't really that challenging, like how they created backups of nearly everybody's smartphones using the infrastructure. All right. Because how do I say this? I don't want to get too deep into technicals, guys, but nearly any time you plug your phone into a wall outlet, you can effectively just kiss all of your private information goodbye with the way the infrastructure is rigged via the Department of Energy's contractors and subcontractors, all finding little ways that are clever to create another internet that can kind of store information without you knowing it. Like it just creates mirrors of data, and they can back up your smartphone when you plug it into a wall outlet, and it can just start being backed up on a central server, on a BlackBerry enterprise server, on a private network. Then every time you go to plug your phone in, if they just want to make slight changes to an application, it's just a matter of swapping out your mirror image. And they can sit there and do things to your mirror and make sure that it works, and use a software emulator to make sure that the whole signal flow, everything go like, "All right, the hack works," push it back to their phone. And then people that are in these, whatever these labs are that have access to your information, can F with your whole world. I know this from personal experience. It's happened to me. And again, can I prove definitively the department in each like layer? Well, guys, that obviously would require the FBI. But at some point, you must know that I've at least drawn all of the associations to go, okay, this person was in control of this. Then they had the internet. Then they had the routes here. Then they controlled these routes here. Then they controlled the phone routes over here. I tell you about Telcordia. I tell you about iConnective. I tell you about Network Solutions. These were the three companies that basically gave SAIC and Leidos this ability to backdoor that and some other things, guys. But these were really the master routes, the warehousing of services and routes that interconnect everything and all the different Bell companies that this very corrupt company got access to when they bought out iConnective and Telcordia before handing it off to a nearly equally corrupt Ericsson Wireless. I know some people are like, "Come on, Gabe, is Ericsson Wireless really that corrupt?" Well, I didn't used to think so until I dug deeper and found that they fired their CEO for bribery and corruption and extortion at one time, and that they had been brought up on extortion and bribery charges in like 12 different companies. And I'm like, you know something, you guys, that's pretty disturbing for a company that you trust with the infrastructure of your entire telecommunications grid in America, because you do. Really, honestly, guys, as far as I can tell, when it comes to national security, America's made the decision that that company I just told you about is the best bet they have when it comes to keeping information private. But again, a company that's known for blackmail and extortion in at least a dozen different countries where their hardware has been placed. So you have a choice between that and ones that we have a concern are connected to the Chinese Communist Party, like Huawei and ZTE. See, again, you oftentimes hear of Huawei. There's stories done about Huawei. It's spelled like Huawei. And if you've ever seen the Huwa, I'm sure most of you guys know Huawei. I used to actually always mispronounce it because I'd never had heard somebody say it for years, like years before I actually, held like actually talked with somebody about Huawei. I used to say Huawei or something like that. Anyways, um, but that's one of the reasons why, guys. And again, this is just like an olive branch to China to let them know, like, guys, you must know that, like, I wouldn't try to make a case to have Americans, companies, infrastructure inside your country. I just wouldn't. I think it's a bad idea. I guess there should be like connections between internets that are controlled to some degree and everything like that. And I understand the need for a world wide web to a degree, but this whole idea that, when it comes to like the censorship of routes and the ethos and values of a country that operates in one, and their ability to do business in another effectively without compromising security of our country, that I think is where it all gets super challenging. Because why would, like, for example, why would China want Google, of all companies, an American Silicon Valley company? Again, even if they have an amazing search engine, why wouldn't the Chinese government just say, like, we can do what Google can do better? Or why not just create a complete copy of what Google is and then just put it out there anyways as their own, if they can get away with doing that? Google did it to create Google, by the way, in case people are convinced that Google is so much better than Apple, or that Steve Jobs, or whatever else is going on there, guys. I mean, I don't like it. It's such a bogus thing to even argue about, frankly. Anyways, all right. So, when we're discussing, though, this whole thing about crisis actors and everything else like that, it seems to me like what we have here is crisis actors almost always have another function within tech industries, doing some type of servers, installation of servers, or doing things like my former function involving wireless industry things, involving cell tower functions, involving the ability to at least aim radio frequency, or have a better than average understanding of how antennas aim and propagate, or the ability to aim a beam or a dish from one point to another for the sake of, directed energy, effectively to fry or target a person in a way that's nearly undetectable except to the individual experiencing it. And then you start to get into why I'm more deeply concerned overall. I've experienced this. It's happened to me. It's happened to me in the environments of these Department of Energy connected people within their homes. So if it happens to me in the homes of people that are connected to the Department of Energy, while they see, again, guys, here's where we get into the whole thing about the blame game. Again, I'm not blaming people because I experienced something in one environment. Let me make that clear. What I'm saying is that if I experience it in my parents' house with a man that ran the Department of Energy's Human Resources Department, whose son works in the National Security Directorate at the Department of Energy, so effectively deep, deep, deep access to the infrastructure, the policies relative to the infrastructure, the control of the staffing of said infrastructure relative to our nuclear industry resources and security, held closely by my very powerful family. My father was Rudy Cruz. He ran human resources, is Rudy Cruz. He ran human resources for the Department of Energy for quite a number of years. He was the director of human resources for Department of Energy, Hanford, for a number of years. About the same time that my brother was getting out of college and accepted his job at SAIC, and then transitioned over around the same time my father was there, actually. At the same time he was there, my brother got a job at the Department of Energy. Nepotism ran strong on that one. What can I tell you? But my brother is a competent engineer, so it's not like he didn't deserve to get a job at DOE. It's just, hey, doesn't hurt if your father's head of human resources there, right, bruh? Anyways, um, I mean, it would help a person get in the job, but you would think that there would be a conflict of interest on the decision. So I don't know how that was all handled, but whatever. Um, but yeah, so that happened, and so when you have that whole series of connections, right, where you've got my aunt and uncle on the Seattle side, Western Washington, with the Department of Justice, with my Aunt Catherine next to a guy named Blackstone. Blackstone is the name of a finance company. The other guy she worked side by side with was Bob Westinghouse, and they all retired the same time. Now, again, it doesn't mean that there were crisis actors, but it does kind of make you raise an eyebrow once you look at the way these other things have worked historically. It's like, wait a second, how come you guys are always kind of close to a person that has a coded or ciphered name that seems to have your name in it, or your interests, or one of your friends' interests mixed with your name? I can tell they're either fake or don't exist, or you're doing something with their role where they're a puppet for you. And this happens in repetition, like in more than one case, in more than one place. So when I see that, she's next to Blacks in Finance, Westinghouse, which is energy. My brother and my father are at the Department of Energy. It's almost like what Catherine hints out. Again, not saying this is what it is, but it almost seemed like what it was that she, as Catherine, was the main lawyer, but the surrogate lawyers that were the shields or the buffers could have been and could still be. They could still be out there playing the roles when needed as Carl Blackstone and Bob Westinghouse in litigating cases and being hired to do things to litigate cases with the guidance and the legal counsel potentially of them, the family. That's how the surrogate buffer program would work. If they're the same people that make Hollywood films, what it effectively means is a person that does not want you to ever know who they really are but control a number of things, simply, once they're rich enough, just has a whole series of human surrogates, buffers, that all act on behalf of their interests and receive commands and orders via a private communication system where they're just told, like, now you're supposed to do this, now you're supposed to do this. Can you imagine that? It's a little bit like the movie Gamer, but in a little bit more sophisticated fashion. Instead of them just like walking around like non-player characters or something like that, bumping into each other and saying stupid things, that they actually will have some degree of, interaction, but never like independent will. They're always effectively having to make the decisions on behalf of the cult or the mafia or the mob, whatever you want to call them. And that's why you have incompetent people running the DEA. That's why you have incompetent people running the FBI. That's why you have crisis actor incompetent puppet characters running the CIA. They've learned that this is just a system that they can sell to the US military and sell to US intelligence services. This is for your protection. This is a way that the person who does the real work gets some shielding from dangerous criminals and people out there, and you can have some puppet surrogates that they go chase after, and when they go researching the puppet characters, then we catch them. Ha ha ha. Okay, it's like a bait trap for the people trying to get the real, whatever, trying to get after somebody for revenge, maybe. I think that's probably how they sold it. And so I can see that there's legitimate reasons for that to exist. Okay, I get it. But maybe this should just convince you to make the times where you need to make legitimate uses of this type of cover, make them look more realistic, because the people that are faking it will do it in a way that's very overt and trolls those of us who know that it's a system. All right. Right, Nazi King? Okay. Just saying. So when I get deeper into the whole connection, guys, keep in mind here that once I went from the whole thing involving that, and then it transitions over to the eastern portion of the state, which is the Hanford Nuclear Reservation. Now, my brother's influence via the National Security Directorate, my father's influence via his former control of the Department of Human Resources relative to the Department of Energy Hanford, a pretty sizable nuclear reservation that handled nuclear materials and uranium and had nuclear reactors providing energy for the area for a number of years. I actually lived there when the nuclear reactors were still active. I mean, I moved there when they were still pluming out stacks of, just like The Simpsons. That's one of the reasons why the dough is there, is to kind of show you guys how the ciphers work. Like my dad, I mean, yeah, his name, he goes by Rudy and everybody calls him Rudy, but his name is Rodolfo, R-O-D, Rod Dolfo. Uranium rods, again, these things are done with intention. So the thing that really got me, you guys, is, and maybe I should just put up the camera here and switch to that. Oh, wait a second. I just lost my camera. There it is. Okay. All right. I think that's Crap. And now in the whole process, oh yeah, now I know what I was gonna do. All right, sorry about that. I was gonna say in the process of trying to get my camera right, I completely forgot what I was trying to do with the discussion here. So hang on. All right. So I learned that at PNNL, so my brother at DOE, Hanford, it's basically, it says like managed by Battelle. And then PNNL is Battelle. PNNL runs Hanford for the DOE. All right. So think this through a little bit, guys. DOE Hanford is managed by Battelle. PNNL is Battelle. PNNL runs Hanford for the Department of Energy. So now, sorry, I know I have an eraser around here someplace. Hang on. All right. So PNNL, okay, Hanford. All right. So then I look back. Now I don't believe this person's in charge any longer. Okay, but keep in mind here, the people that we're talking about in my family that are connected to this are Rodolfo, Rudy Cruz, Catherine, Warma, and Joaquin, Joe Cruz. Now, then I learned that the people that were running this, rather the guy that was running PNNL, head, guys, you'll love this. Think about this. It was Rod K. Quinn. Was Rod K. Quinn. They specifically gave this person, this puppet head of PNNL, the name Rod K. Quinn. Now you tell me, do you think that Rod K. Quinn is a real person, or do you think that they got this name by putting Rod K. Quinn into one name because it's really Rodolfo, Catherine, and Joaquin that use Rod K. Quinn? Rod K. Quinn becomes the name Rod K. Quinn. You know why? Because most people just say, hey, Rudy Cruz. Hey, Joe Cruz is Rodolfo. They don't know his name is spelled Joa Quinn. They all call him Joe. They all call him Rudy. So me telling you Rod K. Quinn equals him and them to the average person, it won't mean anything. I'll just look like a guy that's like, come on, Gabe, you're just drawing negative associations unnecessarily. Am I? Or do you suppose, guys, that a lot of times puppets and buffers are just created to run companies like this? What do you think? All right. Why am I even getting into this right now, guys? Like, why am I so pissed off at, like, is my brother a scapegoat? Am I blaming my issues or my problems on an innocent person somehow? No, guys. In fact, I'm not even definitively saying that all of this equates to what I'm telling you. I'm saying that when you're me, eventually you're going to look at all of these things and you're going to kind of go like, don't tell me this is nothing. Don't keep looking at me with Not even a straight face. One of these people, they can't even look at me with their not straight face. It looks like this. It's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. So not really a look of integrity. But yet, who's suffering now? The guy that tells the truth, the guy that'll actually tell you that this may not be done entirely for safety. It may be done just to give the wrong kind of protections to the wrong kind of people. Because what I found out, you guys, what I found out was that this leads to another ecosystem of hiding people's identities for all the wrong reasons. It means that people that have very dark histories that get away with very serious crimes, especially involving child exploitation, can oftentimes use this exact same system to have their whole records expunged and placed at this exact same Department of Energy lab by some people that might have controlled human resources at one time. I call that the French connection. Hint, a person who might have had the Department of Justice connection, effectively made to where if I try to complain about this, I want you to think about what a trifecta of resources this is to affect our entire infrastructure. You have HR, DOE, you've got DOJ, and you've got NSA, NSD with this. DOJ with this. So again, Dad ran HRDOE. Catherine had the Seattle Department of Justice in Washington State, where Hanford is. If I effectively, do you guys understand that if I were to turn in, like, say that I found definitive 100%, and guys, I mean, I practically have like 98% that there's something definitely wrong. Who would I go to complain about it? I would have to go to the very FBI, where guess who's going to be sitting there as a gatekeeper, or one of their friends. You guys, do you really believe that I have any rights on this one right now? I mean, do you really think that I'm being represented in a way that's earnest? Should there be taxation if there's no representation? Really? Because I'm not being represented. I don't think a whole lot of us are being represented. And right now, there's some people that are just getting like right up close and personal and making sure that I know once again they can get away with anything they want to. Because certain powerful people that have access to certain resources inside our infrastructure, well, they don't do anything. All right, let's talk about why that is. Guys, this is when I really, if you don't believe that this is a thing, it's revealed in a movie called Swimming with Sharks. Okay. If those who aren't familiar, Swimming with Sharks is this really good movie, with Kevin Spacey. I told you earlier, it's this really great movie with Kevin Spacey and Frank Wally. Now it's dark, guys. It's basically, yeah, I mean, there's some kind of sadistic moments in it because the character's treated pretty cruelly. He gets angry, he retaliates in a very cruel way. There's some very, very serious and dark topics discussed in it. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's just something that you can watch passively. No. But guys, the number of like encoded language and things that were going on in it, if you followed my material, you'll know that I've often discussed the like Shelley Winters. Now, check this out. These are all the things that I was just keeping notes of while I was watching the film. This is from Remo Williams. I still have that up there. Sorry, guys. But I was watching the different references that Frank Wally's character gives. The opening scene has him discussing in detail Shelley Winters. And then after he names all these different films involving Shelley Winters, he specifically lists, this is what tripped me out. He specifically lists the Poseidon Adventure because like they're all going, I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. Then when he says the Poseidon Adventure, they all go, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember her. And so it's kind of weird to me that I just watched Poseidon Adventure for the first time like a few days ago. Like I've never seen that movie. I never bothered watching it, but I was researching Shelley Winters. I was researching Pamela Sue Martin, who played Nancy Drew in the 70s Nancy Drew series. And since both actresses were in the Poseidon Adventure and I had access to streaming it for free, I thought, okay, I'm going to check it out. And yeah, it's a timeline movie. It's top down encoded. I mean, I just don't have the time to do an analysis on every timeline movie I encounter lately, but it was pretty amazing. And so Shelley Winters is in that one, as she's been in lots of timeline movies. She was in the Stanley Kubrick films. I mean, she's worked with a lot of great directors and won some Oscars. They make reference to a Foster Kane that's relevant for reasons I won't discuss. Gabe Kaplan was mentioned as as a like a brief reference about how, like, well, it's like Gabe Kaplan back in the day, and the way his hair all went up. He was talking about Gabe Kaplan's hair. Well, Gabe Kaplan played Welcome Back Kotter on the series Welcome Back Kotter. He played Gabe Kotter. And the director that's played by Kevin Spacey in the movie is Buddy Ackerman, and his assistant is played by Frank Waldy, is named Guy. So I thought this was really interesting as I was watching this movie, that at the same time I was watching Swimming with Sharks again, I was doing my material on PROACT crisis assault actor training. And then check this out, guys. Think this through a little bit. Then this name Acre keeps coming up over and over again. Acre, like Ackerman, Acre, whatever, but usually just Aker. It's been in like a few different films. I don't think I've ever met anybody with the name Acre. I think it exists. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's like a coded name, but I mean, it could be though. But check this out. The same time as I'm watching Swimming with Sharks, that I think is a timeline movie where Buddy Ackerman is the character, it just so happens that one of the trainers of PROACT, one of the main guys that they use, is Rick Van Aker. And so I was thinking to myself, I think this was a clue, because oh wait, I'll give you this interpretation later, but hang on really quick. But I think that this is done basically the film was kind of revealing that there's producers behind actors and producers. And so if you ever watch the movie Swimming with Sharks, which I'll do a whole analysis of sometime, basically this guy, the character Buddy Ackerman, he is always talking about Cyrus Miles, the main guy that produces all the films. Well, if you ask me, guys, I think that this is just a representation or an acknowledgement that the secret producers behind films are from the Cruise bloodline, and that some of them have made films since the 80s and 90s, especially from the Hanford Nuclear Reservation, but it's a system that was handed off to them. Prior to them getting over there, there was somebody else that was already doing it. I do think that included my mother's bloodline, guys like James J. Pettigrew that were involved with the film industry out in that area, connected to Hanford. And I think that maybe that's how it happened. I think that it was more of like a handoff between the James Pettigrew group of actors connected to like the Love family cult and all their fakery, that was just sort of merging into the Cruise bloodline. And that what was revealed in this movie about him constantly making reference to Cyrus being the guy that makes all the decisions, Cyrus is in charge. Like the only guy that Kevin Spacey's character, Buddy Ackerman, is scared of really is Cyrus. He's the only person that he's scared of. So I really found it interesting that when I kind of looked deeper into like Cyrus as a code, it occurred to me that really all you do to get to the name Cruise, because frequently, guys, Z and S are used interchangeably within this cipher. Like you'll notice this, like Nazi ciphers especially, they'll take a person's name and change the S to a Z and back and forth. And so once you understand that, you can really just, once you remove the Y, you have Cruise. And so I've noticed that quite a few producers have aspects of my family's names, like Albert S. Ruddy, who produced The Godfather. Again, remember, guys, my dad is Rodolfo Rudy Cruz. Then you have puppet producers that have names like Albert S. Ruddy. Well, here's what's interesting about Albert S. Ruddy. Let's just do a little bit of this should help you understand like why their names always have these weird middle initials that aren't necessary, because it's not like there's a shit ton of Albert S. Ruddy's running, or Albert Ruddy's running around. Why even distinguish it? I'll tell you why. Albert S. Ruddy means this. Taser. You see, because the thing that I've learned about people in Hollywood and the nuclear industry is their secret weapon is real easy. Their secret weapon is basically attaching an electromagnetic gin to your ass and making sure that you're magnetically vibrated out of existence damn near everywhere you go. That's what the Department of Energy can do to damn near anybody in this country. And I think they can actually do it to people in other countries as well. So I think what we really need to get down to is acknowledging that these types of energy systems do in fact exist. Who has control over them, and what is their secret connection to Hollywood? And are any of them connected to these people? Because when I see names like Rod K. Quinn, I got to be honest with you, I'm thinking as Rodolfo Cruz, Catherine Worma, and Joaquin Joe Cruz. But it doesn't mean I'm right. It doesn't mean that that's the way it is. It just means that I'm not saying, I'm just saying. Over and over again, I'm not saying, I'm just saying. What is all this? Trying to be humorous about this, guys, but this really ain't funny. Because Harvey Weinstein's another puppet. I know everybody wants to believe that that's true, but don't you understand the genius of making these stories that get you all upset, like Harvey Weinstein and Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell? All of these stories piss you off because the people tend to get away with it, or the end result of the whole trial and everything doesn't really satisfy you. That's what it's designed to do. Hide the real people behind a buffer. The real people hide behind a buffer so that Rodolfo and Catherine and Joe can all live normal lives, and Rod K. Quinn is the crisis actor buffer. If the system works the way it appears to be working. Does it mean that that's how it is? No. But if it's not that way, I would really just like to know why. Something so obviously fake exists and no one really does much about it, says much about it, and there doesn't appear to be a great way to get any accountability over it. Okay? All right. I'm trying to think of what I had next on this topic that I was going to whiteboard. All right, so now that I showed you like Rod K. Quinn is kind of a thing, right? The whole point of me doing this exercise, I guess, what I'm trying to tell you guys here is that I want you to get, I guess, what I want you to try to like remember with this is that this type of fakery is everywhere. And that if you can unpackage like the Nazi king, Nazzic king being the controller of that company, and then associate, like, guys, once you figure out, let's see here, let me put it on the screen here. Once you figure out why Nazi king and SCIC and Rod K. Quinn and PNNL, they'll solve the puzzle. I'm not saying that to be cryptic. I'm telling you that that's just reality. Once you understand how, and I want you folks to know this that are like the talented investigators. Like, do you understand? Like, you think this is all so complicated and vast, some of you, I think. You've convinced yourself that you can't beat this problem. You can do it. You can. I'm telling you that it's painfully simple. You have to think of their entire ecosystem. Please remember this. Please, please. Because I need you to do your freaking jobs because this country is depending on you. I need you. This country needs you. Those of you who have the power to do this, will you fucking wake up? Will you fucking wake up? I shouldn't have to sell you on any of this. This is so obvious that it just smacks you in the freaking face. Just do your job, please. Will you just do your job or get out of the way and let me do it? Like, I want, see, guys, this is the problem. See, I don't want a job where I'm in like looking after everybody. I don't want to be the one catching people. I honestly don't. I just want the people that are supposed to be catching the things that are really harming this country just to get it done. And not to have people have to volunteer in ways that don't give them the right protections. Guys, do you understand what this is? Do you understand what this system really represents? This represents witness relocation for a criminal class. I'm telling you that that system I just showed you right there on that whiteboard, what it leads to is like a guy, for example, that's a friend of the mafia can get caught with child pornography. I'm giving you a real case here. I want you to know this is serious as a heart attack. I found information like this connected to people that I care about, and they had no good explanations for me as to why those data associations existed. More importantly, like it seemed like when I confronted them with it, they kind of made a motion like, get him out of here. That's love. That's being raised by the mafia. Try to get away, guys. Try to be me for it. I'm not asking for your freaking, whatever, but like, I'm nice to all these different groups, nice to the FBI, nice to the cops and law enforcement people that I show up to, but it's such an F thing that's going on, and it's so freaking huge that it just seems like there's just so little political will to do anything about it. So I'm wondering what is going to be the thing that gets the people that need the jurisdictional authorization just to cross the line and do the FBI's job for them. Who is that group? And how do we make that more known, broadly known to the general population so they can create a demand for it? Guys, the FBI is not doing what they're supposed to do, and they're who we rely upon for federal law enforcement to handle this exact kind of effery with record corruption. You see, it has to go to this DOJ that this Catherine Warma has a connection to. So if her buddies that all involved are still involved with the Rod K. Quinn or the Bob Westinghouse, Carl Blackstone system of record corruption, what possible hope do I have getting this to move anywhere in Washington state where it all originates? Think about it. I did my due diligence, folks. I need you to understand that. I'm sorry that I get too deep into the Hollywood things, but it's because these are the same people that make those films. And so I guess what I'm trying to tell folks is that when you're dealing with a circumstance like this, there's going to be people eventually that are in the Hollywood industry that also say, I'm not down with this. I'm not cool with this. The thing I've learned about people in Hollywood is they're almost like more libertarian in nature. They they like enough order to where they want to know that their streets are basically going to get taken care of and that we have functioning lights and things like that and people can get around. But after that, they really don't want government in their life any more than is needed. And something? That's actually pretty healthy. I think most people truly have more of a libertarian streak inside their personal politics than they realize. And it's just simply that libertarianism within America has really been misrepresented as a belief system and as a political structure. It always gets kind of spun in a different direction. But increasingly, the groups are run anymore by crisis actors, anyways, and so we don't even really have real political leaders. We have crisis actors that have fancy names like, Ocasio Cortez, and we get Klobuchar, we get Ilhan Omar. These are characters. They really are. They are characters. Keith Ellison is a character. These are people, especially Minnesota DFL. I would say nearly anybody that's heavy in Minnesota DFL, the Democratic Farmers Labor Party, Minnesota Democrat Farmer Labor Party. Those groups have heavy connections to Washington State and Oregon State politicians and power infrastructure on the West Coast. They partner on projects, they partner on resources. I have seen guys from Rose City Antifa with Minnesota plates in Oregon. Explain that to me, FBI. Are you doing your jobs? Answer no. So here I am having to do it for y'all for free. And you're doing what with the information? Well, you're what, like a few miles away over there, and you're sitting with your thumbs up your asses once again, doing absolutely nothing while human trafficking and all of these networks thrive right in front of you. And one of the few people that can probably help you assemble the right kind of team to actually solve this, who will not get intimidated and who will not back down, and who actually are pretty dedicated to getting you a solution. You take a shit on us, you don't protect us appropriately, and you haven't reached out in any earnest way. You suck. You know what? You guys ever, you always hear about this FBI that goes around like getting all intrusive, like, we want to talk to you, sir. They don't want to talk to you if you know the truth. They don't. It's a big freaking lie. The thing that happened with a 7-Eleven, that's a cybercrime case right there. I mean, that's the window. No, no, don't know about that. Oh, believe me, and they're working overtime on covering up their mistake on that 7-Eleven gas pump thing that they pulled. They know they effed up. They know it. And they're having to cover. Guys, I know I'm upset right now, but I promise you, there's hope. Really is a little bit of hope on the horizon when it comes to these things. I know I put a significant dent into what they do just through some simple, just by knowing what their techniques are and knowing how to throw, you know, some gears into the works when they're trying to hack my phone. That's all. I can make their lives very challenging just by doing things simply by putting my phone into airplane mode or turning the data signal off when they think that they're pubbing off of it or using it. So now I got to tell you something. I've always been this way. Just so you know. Now my ability to externalize it and talk to you in a public forum, that's definitely changed, I would say, relative to the way things were before. My personality, yeah. I mean, I think you could say that, but I would say what the download did for me was somebody's making reference that I discussed that received, I guess you could say, like a download of information because I discussed it in a public venue. Yeah, it was something that I guess would be they call them, I guess, within esoteric circles, DNA activations. And my understanding of it is still pretty basic, and I guess it's that you have locked within your DNA. There is code within the RNA, or the dirty, I guess what they call the dirty DNA, or the things that are not interpretable coils of DNA. Within that, I guess, is etheric information. Within that is history. Within that is timeline based things. It's knowledge that's passed from you, from your kinfolk, from one bloodline to another. That's all just sort of tucked away and hidden inside your brain, as well as all of these cybernetic links and connections that'll provide new pathways and new links to more information. And that's what I tap into. And so what I would say that it's done is it's just made my role as a messenger, it's given me more confidence that I'm not as, look, too many times it all gets validated that there's times where I assume the best. I'm actually a pretty optimistic person, and I will think very highly of a situation or a person or a group of people, only to find out later on that my optimism was probably rooted in just that optimism and that they weren't quite as good as I thought. But I think this is actually because I am a pretty intelligent person. I would say I'm fairly intuitive and not easily fooled. Yet I allow myself, I think my brain kind of goes into this sort of passive state and lets me get fooled because I think it's operating at such a high level like that it understands that the only way it can really trick the situation is for me to actually believe that it's real temporarily. How else do I say it? It's like my brain gets tricked into believing that situations that I'm in that I know are fake, at least in an interim, I'm able to sort of make them feel real to myself. So I guess I can be immersed in the experience and then find out really what is going on around me. And I learn frequently over and over again that quite a few people are in this sort of halfway state of this fakery, believing it themselves, being attached to it in ways that they're not entirely aware of, or that they are aware of and wish that they weren't really a part of. And so I find myself in this strange dynamic of wanting to get away from it myself, but not really knowing how to help others fully get extracted away from this group of people that surround them as well as myself with this method of, cyber hacking of our cell phone devices, rigging of perceptions surrounding us. For example, placing people of questionable character near us or around us, but not revealing like what their motives, values, or histories are. And especially if you know that it's a common method for these people to hire people that have histories doing some pretty ugly crimes, you can imagine the types of nefarious people that they'll try to get close to you just to troll you. Like I've told you guys, I've had people that are straight up like right up on bicycles or like at a parking lot in Portland. And the guy straight up told me that he was a pedophile that gets away with it, that he works with others that get away with it, and there's not a whole hell of a lot I can do about it. And he did say that to me, just trolling my ass. Um, and so I think when you had like a few interactions that are that overt and then some ones that are a little bit more subtle with the way it's revealed to you, it just kind of sticks in your craw. At least it does for me. I can't really just step away from a situation like that and go, somebody else will take care of it. Because I don't think that anybody else will. I mean, I do. How do I say it? I think that they will, but would they be able to do it the same way? And would they have this level of access to the cast of characters and the ability to tell you that a person that goes by Rod K. Quinn is likely using the first name that's not used professionally by Rudy? See, he goes by Rudy Cruz. And my guess is, unless you're his secretary or somebody who knew him really well, you probably did not know that his name starts with ROD. To know why a guy that's running the area after he leaves being named Rod K, and my aunt being Catherine with a K. Rod K. Now my brother goes by the name Joe. So they're just taking out the Joe and putting Rod K. Quinn, running PNNL as Rod K. Quinn. In theory. So let me look this up really quick here. I don't know if you guys think that I'm just making this up. All right, guys. So am I Rod K. Quinn? Dick cake. Wonder what that is. Just think of puns, guys, relative to things. And I don't want to get too deep into detail, but if you followed what's been going on around me lately and the Crisis Actor Company and the way they've been trolling my ass more recently, just drop an H off their name and they've been dropping that object and that's their name. I mean, that's pretty ballsy, you guys. I like how you have your 37s and repetition out here too, and the human trafficking hotline also goes back to 888-3737-888. It's pretty interesting. But Rod K. Quinn has been named the new Associate Lab Director for Environmental Technology Directorate at Pacific Northwest National Laboratory. The environmental technology, so environmentally focused projects. Don't worry, guys, they're handling environmentalism topics and clean energy concepts. There you go. Recent assignment as interim director of ETD. Quinn served as director of process science and engineering laboratories. Wow. Anyways, so this guy's got a pretty serious, wow, a lot of qualifications there, old Rod K. Quinn. Well done, sir. Well done. Hang on. So now you understand why Rodolfo Cruz, Catherine Warma, and Joa Quinn, Joe Cruz equals Rod K. Quinn. Now, is that just like Fibonacci sequence kind of like happenstance synchronicity, or is there a bit of effery there? What do you say? Is there a bit of effery there? It kind of feels like there's a bit of effery there. It kind of feels like there's a bit of attempts to sort of rig records and perceptions a little bit about who's really in charge. And so, in whose interest is it to continually have people in charge of departments that aren't really in charge of them? Hang on really quick because I want to show you something. It's like, when you look at, for example, EEA. I'm saying, is it exclusive though? Is it exclusive to this issue, folks? Do you think, or do you think maybe that there might be some other things going on when it comes to this type of fakery. Because take a look at like those DEA hearings. I'm not trying to drift too far off into these other topics, guys, but like when you think about like other policies involving like how America is governed and what's going on, and you have characters like Ms. Leonhardt at the DEA partings, at the DEA hearings, basically, where she wasn't even able to tell you like some of the basic ways that like a person gets fired or reprimanded at the DEA. She was being interviewed by like Gowdy and Chaffetz and some others. They were the ones that had the more explosive, I guess, questioning of DEA Leonhardt, Director Leonhardt. But it was kind of interesting the way that in that hearing and in some of the others, like you could tell that people that are legitimate public service officials are increasingly becoming fewer and fewer and being replaced by people that are just sort of crisis actors. It's like they don't have the qualified people to fill interim roles, so they just create credentials out of thin air and pretend these people are more talented than they really are. Or they simply have a puppet character whose talents are the combined talents of the person that they seek to have put into the role. So that one person's accomplishments are really the accomplishments of a few people's combined into one puppet character. That's all I'm trying to tell you. And it does really work this way, guys. Not just at agencies like this, but it's a system used in Hollywood. So the reason why Swimming with Sharks is relevant, hang on, let me switch over to this. All right. So the reason why that's relevant is because when you look at this whole puppet actor producer thing, like that's revealed in the Swimming with Sharks movies about how Cyrus is in charge of everything. Cyrus is just really a way of talking about Cruz. So if they were telling people with, this little bit part film that the Cruzes are kind of running things behind the scenes. And I'm telling you that in my research, I would have to say that Albert S. Ruddy was one of the family and basically making the God. If those who don't know, Albert S. Ruddy was the producer of The Godfather. And as far as I can tell, and this was based on tips that were given to me by insiders that were in the family, basically encouraging me over and over again to read this and saying that I needed to understand the connection between The Godfather and the characters in The Godfather relative to my own family. I kind of rolled my eyes at this premise for a while, but now I'm kind of like, no, that's really not far fetched. That's actually, it seems like the person that was trying to encourage me into that path of learning was really looking out for me and trying to help me understand how it really is going. Yeah. So yeah, they're actors just because they're so stupid. They don't know how to do their jobs. They seem like they're almost getting their words from like some Bluetooth headset. Like they can't answer things organically right away. They don't really seem to understand the core functions, or they can't speak to in a way that's sort of free flowing, like how the processes actually work. They seem like they're in a sort of scripted thing that they're not even prepared to answer spontaneous questions. And that's why they do so much. Oh, well, I do appreciate you asking that question of me. So I'm going to, in this, for the sake of using formality unnecessarily, stall my answer to give time to the person that's really feeding my answer into some mini headset here. However they do it, guys. I mean, but they're not really running anything. So you see like these Rosenstein guys from the FBI, and you see the Leon Hearts, and you're kind of going like, why does that person just seem so fake? Why do they seem like they're just so incompetent? Well, they are incompetent. They're not really there to do anything but be a puppet or a shield. So the people that are actually fulfilling the role could just go around doing whatever the hell they want and never be held accountable. Guys, that's really all this system is about. They wanted you to believe it was to protect some people. It was really just to make accountability almost impossible for the people actually doing it. So that if you ever discovered something was going down at the PNNL, that yeah, okay, fine. So what happens if the puppet character Rod K. Quinn is blamed for the sins of a Rodolfo, a Catherine, or a Joaquin? This is the guy that goes to jail, and he doesn't exist. He doesn't exist. Yeah, he's out there. You can meet the person named Rod K. Quinn, but if they go someplace, it's just because their role is done. They no longer need to pretend. They can go off someplace else and pretend. And maybe the person they stay for the rest of their life until they end that life cycle of that person. And it may have just been something that was there for a few years and nobody really cares about them after that or looks for them. So, all right. It is pretty frustrating. I gotta tell you. Yeah. I mean, these are all classic examples of what we're talking about here. People that just don't seem to just, or they don't really seem to organically have gotten to the place that they say that they're in, doing it the way that they claim. That's all. You know. All right. Let's see here. All right. I did some articles on this. They gave some clearer maps. Um, because why would all this exist? I guess why is all this fakery necessary? Why is there, why would there be a reason to have? Sorry, let me put this back on again. Sorry about that. I don't like the light, guys. To be honest with you, it just bothers me. That's why one of the reasons why I prefer keeping it in the dark most of the time. Just light flicker bothers me. Um, what I'm telling you is that once you understand that, like that everything that I told you to do with like Albert S. Ruddy, like this guy can show up to the podium because the guy that actually made The Godfather doesn't really want to be known. So he just has a guy that goes by the fake name Albert S. Ruddy, which again is just a cipher for taser. Albert S. Ruddy, TSR, taser, Ruddy. Interesting that this same guy, his ex-wife, Francois, which means French, Ruddy, got hooked up with the Rajneeshi in Central Oregon, the exact same area that, well, hey, that's where all of our family was. That's where I did cell tower design. I actually was designing cell towers right where the Rajneeshi event happened. Not when it happened, by the way, because there weren't cell towers out there. But I'm just telling you, like, where it happened is pretty remote and rural in Oregon. And I know the area because I used to do cell tower design in there, and it really is kind of like almost nothing out there. I mean, it's pretty desolate. But guess who was out there? The East Coasters, Albert S. Ruddy, had an ex-wife that settled in Central Oregon and was connected to the Rajneeshis. Guys, do you understand that why that's relevant? Because they've been faking things for a long time. I'm telling you that Albert S. Ruddy wasn't out there doing the Rajneeshi thing. His ex-wife wasn't out there for nothing. It's because it's all connected. The crisis actors, the uranium industry, the fakery, all connected to Hollywood, all connected to these, really, guys, these plot lines, these scripts, the Harvey Weinsteins are puppet actor buffer producers for the real ones that oftentimes actually are cruises. As far as I can tell, that's some real deals. You know what? Some of the people that are really, really producing it and really funding it, when you get past the layer of the layer of the layer of the layer of the onion, there's just simply some cruises out there that produce films and they don't want you to ever know about it because if you think about it, if everybody knew that you did that, they would all be trying to get in your head, right? Because you influence everything. It's like every lobbyist, every whatever in the world would want to be inside your perception, and they probably wouldn't leave you alone because they would know the value of just simply placing one suggestion or idea in your mind and getting it to flourish because you can make things happen. Think about it. But it was this system at the DOJ, it was this system at the DOE that made it possible. Now, we have to get into the whole thing with, hang on really quick. All right, hang on. And so when I was looking up more recently, like all this information, then I noticed that my brother's department at the National Security Directorate is now being run by this lady, Debbie Grazio. So Deb Deb Grazio is now running my brother's department. And when I looked up her history, she has almost an identical pathway of engineering experience as my brother. She went to the same college, WSU Pullman, at the same time, 1989, as my brother, who was getting his mechanical engineering degree there at the same time. And now him and Debbie are working in the same place at PNNL with her as the head of the department and my brother running operations within the National Security Directorate at Pacific Northwest National Laboratory. How about that? So, who's really in charge? Well, let's take a look at this. I guess you could say who's really in charge. Hang on. What? What? They took the org chart down. What? No. Seriously? Oh, I was gonna say, no way. I can't believe they took the org chart down. Wait a second. This is an old one. No. What happened? Dude, what happened? You guys, this is where my brother was. Is he not there anymore? No, this has got to be an old one. Hang on, guys. Hang on. I don't talk to my brother lately, so he may not be there. There it is. Okay, I got it. So I'll show you guys and compare the two to each other because I have a conflicting one here. Hang on. Yeah, so when you compare the two charts here, like as I'm looking at, yeah, see, they got somebody different labeled. Maybe I should put the two next to each other and take a quick screenshot, then share that with you. Hang on. I got to see how old one is versus the other because I don't see a timestamp on either one. Yeah, so the one shows there that let's see, special programs is Chris Ardall. I show one that says Homeland Security is Chris Ardall, and special programs is Dennis Nelson. Department of Defense is Kim Fowler on my chart. It shows Wayne Brazier on another chart. Like, what happened here? And then there's no integrated system solutions on the new chart, or rather on the old chart, but there is on a new chart. And according to this, guys, this is all right. All right. No freaking way. No way, you guys. Wait a second. Let's go back. Yeah, there's a lot of new different people. Like they had a whole swap out. But here's what's weird, you guys. They're showing that it went from operations being run by my brother Joe Cruz. Now they're saying that operations is being run by somebody named, of all things. This is where I call BS on this, guys. Somebody named Shelly Groats. All right, that's my brother's ex-wife's name with like one letter difference. That's her the same last name if you pluralized it. His ex-wife was Groat. So now you're going to tell me that it went from being run by Joe Cruz to Shelly Groats? Seriously, you guys? You're really going to try to do this now? This is really your game plan now, is to have him leave the op. I mean, is that what's going on here, guys? Am I this behind? So I didn't know this. Oh my God, you guys! You know the guy that's part of the whole Kyle Rittenhouse thing. Let's take a look at this. Oh my God! If you still don't think this is all being faked here by somebody, let's take a look at this. I'm gonna do a quick. Hang on. There's that eraser. This is amazing. All right. All right, guys. Remember this? Remember Kyle Rittenhouse? Who's the guy that Kyle Rittenhouse shot? Gage Groats. So let me show you what they've done here, guys. Is they've effectively taken. Sorry, because I have to put this up on the screen here now. So here's the old chart. Here, let's make this a little bit more visually impactful here. All right, you be the judge. So I guess my brother was on PNNL. Now it's been replaced by Shelly Groats. Then we've got a news story that involves Groats, and it just so happens that my brother Joe Cruz was married to a woman named Groat, and there's two sisters, out there, and so when they're pluralized, they're the Groats sisters, right? Right, Joe Cruz, who is connected to the Groat sisters and is now trying to pass off your job. I don't know. Maybe it's that way, and maybe it's not. You know. Are you starting to understand though? Like those who are on the fence, maybe about my material, like what I'm dealing with here. Think this through a little bit. I see this all the time in these false narratives that are put out there by crisis actors. So if I see crisis actors running those kind of narratives that they get all you to believe in, all of us are arguing over these race issues, all of these very controversial gun issues. Would you still feel the same way if you knew that a lot of it was made up, and who might have made up a name like Croots, knowing what you just saw? Who might have created that particular false flag? Who is connected to Mayor Jenny Durkin, who created Chaz in Seattle and appointed Gorgeous Dre, the pimp popularized in the documentary American Pimp, became a street czar with a salary over $150,000. Decisions brought to you by a former partner coworker of Catherine Warma, who still lives in Seattle. And I guess, this is the way that, when people that can control narratives that are behind Groats might create a fake name called Gage Groats. Did nobody ever realize that Gage Groats had big ass earrings in his ears? and that they call those earrings, right? They're measured by what are called gauges. A gauge is the hole size required for those big ass earrings that Gage Grotskreutz is wearing. Will you please wake up, America, and understand that people at the Department of Justice want you distracted by these false flags that they make hyper realistic? But if you knew what that trial was really designed, guys, and some of the people that are immersed in it actually kind of believe it. Some of the people that get involved with it, it was made real for them. Not everybody's faking it. They'll almost always find a few people that are holy and pure, but they're surrounded by a false narrative that once they experience it and all these other people around them have experienced it, they go, I guess I experienced that. What else am I supposed to say? I guess that's how it happened. Do I have any other choice? The nature of the false flag. But you must know there's an ecosystem and you must know that it leads back somewhere. In fact, stop saying that Hanford is managed by Battelle. Your perceptions, your news cycle, your riots, all of it is being managed by the family at the Department of Energy, Battelle Hanford. That is actually also a movie studio that crisis actors are given cover in. And some of those crisis actors are into child porn, have dark predilections. Some are rapists, murderers, and serial killers, and they are given protection. They are given better protections in the witness relocation than a real witness like myself, who is left flailing on the streets by this worthless, corrupt FBI who lets them stack up and hack me, who does nothing about it, and whose office is just down the street, and they're proving their worthlessness to me once again in yet another state. Thank you, FBI. At least you're consistent. Sorry, I don't want to ruin my new camera here. I should use it the proper way, but it takes so much time and it ruins my. It does all these cool things, man. Like, you know. This is kind of cool, I have to admit. I can do all this, like. See, like, if I want to, like, simultaneously show you my whiteboard while talking to you, I can do that, you know? So I can sit here and go, like, you guys, what is up with this effery? What's up with this fakery? Yeah, guys, it's all like, look, can we all just like agree that they want a race riot? That why do they want the race riot? Because it provides shielding, it provides, um, it gives a criminal class of people the ability to keep doing what they've been doing out in the open, but look like victims of some social justice issue. And that's one of the reasons why, guys, like George Floyd is such a frustrating thing for me because like I'm the kind of person that I do actually believe that people kind of deserve another chance. I do think that there's a lot of value in people growing from sin and growing from having histories, being involved with crime or whatever, and that they can heal from that and they can become better people, and there should be pathways to making that happen. So I don't ever say anything negative about like a guy like George Floyd, um, in that sense, but I think that like these are things that are designed to f with all the population simultaneously. They're messing with all of your internal mechanisms to get you to feel sympathy for criminals and thugs that you wouldn't piss on if they were on fire normally, if they were in your neighborhood affecting you the way that a lot of these people did. And I would argue that George Floyd, his surface character, whatever he was, is one of them. He's not a guy that deserves to have a bunch of streets named after him. And that's been the huge joke and fallacy played on all of America right now. You guys just named a whole bunch of streets after a guy that literally had a home invasion that wasn't that far back in his history, that he held a gun to a pregnant woman's belly. and we honored this guy, made murals of him, talked about what a you know what a, how he deserved so much better. It was the system that did it to him. Guys, I think you can actually argue that sometimes the system does these things to people. I think you can actually argue that there is a lot of unfair policies that put people into situations where they're forced into lives of crime. And I think there's a lot of legitimate cases to be made for that. And that not everybody who's progressive or liberal who make those cases is being disingenuous. And some of them have some pretty good statistics to back up what they're saying that some conservatives should take in heed to and should listen to better. So don't ever try to position me as a person that's like, somehow jumping ship on one ethos or values to go to another group or something like that. It's not like that. It's that we need to find a balance and actually have actual beliefs truly represented as they actually are. Because what that was a crisis act. The whole race baiting issue and the gun baiting issue behind all of these things, guys, including sitting down that crazy couple that did the big AR rifles with the protest thing and like making them into characters that tour around the country and that everybody invites to like events for guys. Don't you understand how duped you're getting with all of these narratives? They get you all to jump behind these characters that are inflammatory and divisive by design. They want you celebrating the most divisive characters, and that's the problem. Like, I even look at the whole Kyle Rittenhouse thing on the surface, and I'm kind of going like, honestly, guys, that even if you just like accept the surface level details as 100% true, like, how wrong everything is because all these people presented the Kyle Rittenhouse case like he went down the street with an AR and shot black people. And he didn't shoot a single black person. If you believe that he shot anybody, then you must know that the people that he either shot or fake shot were white. And moreover, one of them was a serial pedophile who had been caught harming in horrific and graphic, awful ways, was doing things to children. Do you suppose a guy that is a pedophile of that nature, who takes it to that level, ever cared about Black Lives Matter issues? Why was he actually down there? No one is asking this question, this very important question. Do you honestly believe that a guy that molests children will go down there in any sincere way for a social justice issue? Do you think that he was truly outraged and out there in the streets, especially when he's running around to different people going, "You gonna shoot me, N-word? You gonna shoot me, N-word?" Here's a guy that's white with his head shaved, dropping N-bombs left and right. He looks more like a freaking Aryan Nation guy to me than he does anybody connected to a BLM protest. Rosenbaum, yeah. Are you shitting me? Come on, man. You know what this is about. You guys, look, I don't know what's like some of the things you just brought up in the chat. I will not even ridicule you. I just haven't looked into it, just so you know. Like, I'm not gonna argue it or support it one way or the other. But just so you know, like, I don't doubt it. Okay. Because they are one of the ways that they're trolling people that do know what the crisis actor thing is, you guys, is they are reusing them because they know for you to mention that, they can come back and go, "How dare you say that? His whole family over here is suffering. Look at the tears that you just brought them. Look what you just did." Oh my God, dude, they've done these things. In fact, very recently, they've done these things to me, trying to sell me narratives that make me look like an asshole if I don't accept them at face value. And I'm looking at this person going, I know your story sounds super sympathetic, and I know what it's designed to do. You're presenting this in such a way that if I turn you down, I look like such a jerk. Like, I'm the kind of person that doesn't see that another person needs something to the same way that I've needed things in the past. I know how all of these things are methodically set up. But then when you begin to deconstruct all of it, I'm going, no, this guy's story doesn't make any sense. His ask for help, his reason for getting close to me and my girlfriend, none of this made sense. None of it made sense. It seemed to me like there was another agenda there. And I think it leads back to that crisis actor company that is connected to the the real construction projects, that is a front company for something else. I think it's a group of gangs that are connected to a front company to do intercepts that swap SIM data and SIM geo-referenced locations with one device to another to create fictional data sets and mirrors of data sets and money laundering transactions. And stay the fuck away from me and people that I care about. I ain't gonna warn any of you motherfuckers again. I'm serious as a heart attack. If you still don't think that I've got some heavy players that keep an eye on me, you ain't paying attention. Stay the fuck back. Do you think I'd still be alive doing this if I had anything but that? And I'm not saying it to put those people in any danger. In fact, I'm hoping it has the opposite effect. Stay away. You're seriously stupid if you think you can keep doing this. Oh, I get it. And I'm going to say it again. The FBI, you're right. They're not doing anything. But I promise you, we've got something in the works that's going to make it to where you will be so publicly shamed that you're not going to be able to walk anywhere, motherfuckers. I swear to you. So we're going to make it to where when the FBI does do their job, we will find a way to use public shaming in such a way that I promise you, you're not going to be able to escape what you've really done. There's no way you're going to create a fake data association, a fake data corruption, get close to anything or anybody that I care about or love. Nothing that you go do is ever going to work. Do you understand yet? You leave me alone, you leave them alone, you back up away, and don't ever come back. And stop leaving fucking hairnets in my path because I know what it means, bitch. I'm cool. Don't ever anybody say that I was losing my shit here. I'm making sure that you understand that I'm very serious. I get it, guys. They put me into situations where they embolden you to feel like you can get away with a lot. They really try to give you a lot of rope to hang yourself with. But let me tell you something, motherfucker. You got rope-a-doped like you would not believe. And you just keep hanging yourself. So keep doing it, bitch. And keep getting cheeky with me. I'm revealing all of you. And you're not hiding behind race issues, social justice issues, gender issues. None of it. And your little false flag op is canceled, bitches. You understand that? You're not faking that horrific incident that we know that you're planning. Because we're all watching you do it. We're all watching you hatch your little plan, what you're going to do in front of everybody to get them into the next race riot, and how you're going to try to do it really close to me. And you're going to fail. No one's going to let it happen. You will not get away with it this time. We are canceling your false flag. We are canceling your race riot. We are canceling your misperception of everything, your miscategorization of everything, your jumbling of every event. You're canceled, the family. I'm canceling your ass. And this ain't cancel culture. I'm telling that your series has run its course. You have gone beyond being a bad television series that should have been canceled a long time ago. So just get the fuck on already. Canceled. Sorry about my language tonight, guys. I'm really trying to curse less. I really am. I want to be a dad someday that's not dropping F bombs everywhere. Seriously. I'm smarter than that, and I can think of more words to use than F bombs, I promise you. But you know what? I've seen some pictures of some of you lately, and you look just soulless. You look soulless. You look like people who have lost their souls. Some of you, your eyes are like turning black. Have you seen people this happens to, guys? You ever seen somebody that you used to know that seemed to have some color in their face that now that you see pictures of them, they look like like all the different colors have been taken out of the pigments of their eyes, and it's damn near like they're wearing black colored or tinted contact lenses. Yeah. Look, guys, I didn't want to bring up the Rittenhouse thing to get us arguing it, because I really do think that that's its point, is to get us to go over the minutia of the case. That there's like no winning. There's really, it's the kind of scenario that the only way that this can turn into a win is for the people that believe the surface, story, to clearly understand that the mainstream media told them ad nauseum that this kid shot a bunch of black people at a BLM protest when it simply didn't happen. And a whole bunch of people publicly basically raked him over the coals, called him a white supremacist, a KKK Nazi little kid, and everything like that. When, if you accept the surface story, it simply wasn't true. They said that he shot black people. He did not shoot a single black person. Didn't happen. Didn't happen. Moreover, Rosenbaum is a guy that nearly any person with half a brain would say, good, I'm glad he's dead, or good, I'm glad he got shot. F that guy. Because child rapists don't belong on this planet, let alone treated with any amount of dignity, aside from that you should treat them with enough to where you don't lose your own. That's all I'll ever say on the topic. Don't get so caught up in your ability or your sense of vengeance where you lose your own humanity. That's all. But if something like that happens, I'm not saying go around finding them all and shooting them all. But when it happens like that, maybe we can kind of go, shit happens. Like Micah Rhodes, another like Portland guy that's like all into these protests, another child rapist that likes to hide behind BLM and Antifa, who likes to hide behind these social justice issues, who likes to pretend he's a vigilante citizen calling out the riffraff. And he's none of it. Micah Rhodes, connected to all of that Portland BLM Antifa, you are a child rapist, just like Rosenbaum was. And you know what? Y'all deserve the same fate. I don't feel bad for a single one of you that has that happen. So, and you're all hiding in the Antifa BLM movements. And those of you who are in BLM who still think you're in something legitimate that cares about black people, you're not. It doesn't. It's always been using you. So if you have a genuine concern for these types of issues, I respect that. Find a new organization to work within, because that one is steering you wrong. And there's a reason why all these rich ass people in these fancy neighborhoods that I seem to find myself in from time to time have all kinds of posters up that say Black Lives Matter, despite the fact these probably people never interact with black people ever. Whose campaign is that? Because it ain't for you, black people. That ain't for you. It's not. That's why they wanted you repeating the fake narrative. They wanted a whole bunch of black people out there going, fuck this Kyle Rittenhouse kid. They wanted that. They wanted that. They wanted you to think of him as a person that is a white supremacist that shoots black people, and for you to be enraged and go out in the streets and follow the crisis actors that are creating LARPs. They get the real riots and the real thievery to start. And let's face it, the people that are actually angry about it aren't doing a lot of the rioting. I think most of them can keep their chill and just show up, yell, protest, march, and get it out of their system. It's the criminal class that loves this shit. They love to loot the stores. They love to have a reason to pillage and take anything they want from anyone they want, however they want. And guys, I don't think that the major corporations, in many cases, despite having to leave some of these neighborhoods that they have businesses in, actually care. I think it was part of the master plan to destabilize America and ultimately hand us over to communist dictatorship in ways that we did not detect, or we would not detect, but would just accept and lay down. Yeah. Sorry guys, I'm trying to catch up with your comments here really quick. I can't respond to all of them really but I'll do my best here to like whatever. Yeah, and again guys, look, like what you just said there. Can we say guys, is it okay? Can we all just agree now that a person can make a statement like that just now and say these BLM signs are aggravating to me, and that sometimes when a person that says that, it has zero to do with their ethos and values relative to black people or racism or anything else like that, and it's simply because they're like me. They see well, maybe they have a different take on it or a different whatever opinion of how it's fake or against them. But they probably understand, just like me, that it really isn't there to help your communities as much as it is to continue to exploit them and elevate a class of them that you yourselves, most of, probably don't like. Just like they do with all these other classes of races and ethnicities, origin, whatever it is, guys, it doesn't really matter. They always go out of their way to elevate the criminal class, the least talented, whatever amongst them, make them the heroes, and then downplay the ones with real talent, humiliate them, denigrate them ritualistically. I've experienced it lately. I know, I'm aware of it. I know these things happen. Yeah, it does. It's harmful. And again, it should be okay to express that opinion and say like, look dude, I actually agree, I don't have an issue with that part. I'm telling you that that organization is bogus. Like, why would it be taboo? Can I say that I care about cancer victims but I think that the Susan Corman Cancer Foundation is bullshit? Can I say that? Is it okay to say the pink ribbon thing is bullshit? Because it is. It's not like that money actually goes to cancer research. It goes to running the foundation. I think maybe only a small percentage, like in the single digits, actually goes to cancer research. I'm not trying to, but yeah, let's talk about that a little bit because that's just another layer of this same effery where people pretend to care, pretend to do something, run it with puppet characters, take your money, play your heartstrings, and nothing fucking gets done to cure the illness. Nothing gets done to cure the ailment because they don't want the cure. But when I keep seeing this garbage, come on, guys. My brother was at the operations group. It goes from being Joe Cruz to Shelly Groats. Wait, Shelly Winters. I'm going to put this up there. Anyways, yeah. That's all, guys. I mean, really, what I'm trying to say is that please at least understand that the vast majority of these cases, really, at this point in time, are false flags and LARPs. It's probably better that we refer to them as live action role play LARPs that have an intention of steering events into an outcome. I think that's a more responsible way. False flag is like saying Nazi to some people. To us, amongst each other, we can say false flag in the word Nazi. To others, we have to like code it or make it more palatable sometimes and not just say it outright. Although I'm kind of done doing that. I've tried to, you know, I really don't like saying that some people like or whatever Nazis because it's such an over. It's like saying calling somebody a fascist, because they're just picky or something like that. It's like calling somebody a Nazis becomes such a word that has no. It doesn't really hold any real value. Uh, you always associate it with the wrong type of person. Like I did a whole like 7 or 8 minute long article. I don't have time to play it tonight, but about faux liberalism in America and what I discovered connected to my family, guys. My family is faux liberalism. I don't know how else to say it. It's done with fake protests that turn into real protests. And guys, I'm telling you that the woman that runs PROACT Crisis Actor Network, Kim Warma, I've got a picture of her with Catherine Warma with the DOJ, that Catherine Warma of the Department of Justice with the pink hats. They're there in a protest with the pink hats. So they're familiar with protesting. They're familiar with getting into protests. They have the knowledge of the DC area. They've gone there themselves. They're a network of crisis actors. And nearly everything that I've seen involving an incident that gets in the mainstream media, I can always find cheeky shit like this. Because remember, guys, NSD Ops went from being run by Joe Cruz Shell lie. Shelley Groats. Groats, Croots equals Groats, Croots. The shell lie. Or lay. Eggs have shells, but that's a whole nother topic. Right, Joaquin? Because I know how much the family loves genetic manipulation, messing with people's DNA, and messing with people's ability to have offspring. I'm going to warn you again. My information awareness methods are only going to increase and intensify. I'm only going to get more pointed and more specific with my information. It's only going to be more and more intense and more specific as time goes on. So to believe you can continue to kick the can down the road and fake events in this way and have everybody not lead it back to its source, that ain't really going to go down much, if you ask me. There's going to get to be a point where people go, fine, the FBI ain't doing their jobs. And those of us who are law abiding citizens, we need to have an outlet through which we are sufficiently, um, the burden that justice has occurred needs to be met. And in my life, anytime this group of people have been close to it, no justice happens. Pedophiles are allowed to molest children and get away with it in repetition. They're allowed to molest many kids in a neighborhood. And then once it's discovered, there's confessionals, including from the perpetrator and the victims. Then the man who does it is ushered off to Mexico and allowed to get away with it by the same fucking people. No justice. Well, in our case, because we have no real justice department, are we really going to get peace? Not when the people that are in the Justice Department are literally trying to create riots. And honestly, anything that you try to do to me at this point will be very ineffective. All you can really do to me at this point, family, DOJ, FBI, is martyr me. Because this is why you will not move. This is why you will not do anything to me. You know, everything that I'm saying has evidence, is pretty definitive, and it's only because you are the gatekeepers to the verification layers that you continue to give me the middle finger with your fake narratives that you do in a very public way with all these news media stories. And then when somebody asks me, Gabe, what do you think of that? What am I supposed to say? I've seen the screenplay. I know who directed that script. Because that's how I feel about your news stories. It feels like it's the same shitty director, the same shitty writer, and it's the same crappy television series, and that you're doing the same tired plot points for the same reasons all over again. AKA your LARPs. You suck. That's all. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of seeing your cheeky ass faces just sitting there smiling and grinning like you're not doing anything. And a person like me that would like to actually do something, my hands are freaking tied. I don't even have a goddamn car. Thanks, fam, by the way. My research is frozen. I was doing bioenergetic research. You know, guys, I can't even use my BioL camera because, well, I guess the cheeky family decides to place a big W image in all of my camera's files. You know, the Westinghouse logo. You guys, I mean, I'm trying to do something good with my life, and people that have Westinghouse connections, I like my BioL camera, guys. It creates coronas, right? You've probably seen it. It creates like these circular coronas that kind of go like this with different colors. Okay, they basically made it to where a big blotch goes like this in the center of my corona on my BioL camera, and I reported on Westinghouse, and Westinghouse's logo is literally okay. This is what I'm dealing with. I like literally, I left the wireless industry trying to do good things for people, do things that are about healing, studying human energy concepts, finding ways for people to understand the electrical flow of their bodies better, and all of these really cool concepts that are life affirming and actually pretty amazing, I think. And I have a lot of optimism still that it's going to work out. But you see, guys, it all involves electronic transfer of information. And I'm just trying to like take some images, and they can literally take the image and turn it into this big old W. I'll find the actual. I took a screenshot, guys. I'll find it and show it to you, so that I'm not just saying it. I just don't have it right now. I have to go back and find the file. But seriously, I mean, you're so freaking cruel hearted. You're so in love with being in power that you're just gonna sit back and act like you can just continually act like none of this is happening, and none of it leads back to where I say. Like none of you know anything about how all this fakery actually works. You don't know, huh? You really don't know. You can sit there and send me these little freaking photos of you smirking and being at events that I wish I was at with family members that I love. Will the rest of you wake up, please? Because I don't have a fucking family anymore. I can't, guys. I was gonna quit anyways tonight, man. But it's over. Okay, I'm not doing this any longer. And what I no, this I'm doing more. What I'm telling you though is this effery, this fakery, it leads back to somewhere. It leads back to someone. Someone's writing the screenplays, and via the National Defense Authorization Act, the Department of Energy got access to create LARPs and false flags on American soil. Never forget that. Remember the Smith-Mundt Act of 2012 and the expansion of the NDA, the National Defense Authorization Act. That's what gave people at this particular lab the ability to create events involving these fake names. Get it? Shelley Groats and Joe Cruz, Groats Croots. The world aren't idiots, and neither am I. And I'm going to leave it at that tonight. Have a good night, ladies and gentlemen. Good night.